Hi, this is Professor Britt with a lecture on wage determination. We'll be going through a problem or two in regards to, again, looking at what is the best for our production level in regards to wage determination. So obviously, wages as a factor of production, a price what we pay for our labor, looking at our nominal and real wages, overall earnings, and just understanding that as an economy, where the United States is in regards to wage rates overall per hour in US dollars. So we're kind of closer towards the bottom, but in regards to price of living in other places, it's very different as well. What we're looking at is productivity, which we know relates from our macroeconomics and looking at levels of productivity and the role of productivity in determining the position of our economy overall, relating to things as our investments. And these are our factors of production. How much capital that we have, investment that we have, looking at our natural resources. What are our natural resources? What's happening in areas of technology and advancements and changes in that? Overall labor quality. Many of you know that the reason why we move forward in 1964 with the Head Start legislation was that was an investment in our future labor force, because we had basically lost the space race to the Russian Sputnik missile. So the United States response to that was to make sure that our labor force was ready to learn and had a head start, specifically on math and science, to cultivate that the abilities and skills and aptitudes of individuals, little ones in the 1960s, so that we would be able to advance ourselves in the space race forward. And other factors play a role as well. So as we look at labor and the quality of our labor and the wage rates as we move forward, so that as our quantity of our labor increases, our quality also has to increase. And if that's the case, we should have an increase in real wage rates. And obviously, things are more expensive, so we have an increase in our hourly compensation, but also then looking at how much people are working. And please notice that blue line, the output per hour of work, is increasing because we're working on our days off, we're working on vacation, we're always checking our email, we're always texting, and so we're really looking at outputs that have changed. Our labor market, we've got to look at where we are in regards to the quality of our labor, the skill sets of our labor, and even though, as a higher educator, I promote education, we never want to forget our trades, and the demand for those skills. HVAC, all of those skill sets are still necessary, and add to the quality of our labor force. We still are looking at our MPR equals our MRP, equaling our marginal resource product, equaling our marginal resource cost rule as we go forward. We look at individual labor markets overall as it relates to our quality and how that affects an individual company. So if the market says, all right, in a competitive market model, that the wage rate for that job is $10 an hour, then that is what's going to be emulated in the individual firm. How does that relate to their marginal revenue product as it relates to the demand and where they're starting their wage rate? Now, what we also will look at in this chapter is the infusion of unions and how that affects this wage rate. Looking at our first model in regards to, a single buyer. The firm is the wage maker. Basically, we're looking at a upsloping labor supply to the firm, and resource cost, the marginal resource cost is higher than that wage rate. So when we look at it from a model standpoint, what we're looking at is looking at the power of that of this particular model when we're looking at power as it relates to our marginal revenue product, and then looking at our marginal revenue costs. So basically, in a monopoly, when we're looking at overall wage rates, this might be the wage rate that we should start at, but with a monopoly, we're going to have that single um, uh, activity, so therefore wage rates are a bit lower, and we understand from our market models that monopolies are not the best for us. Maximize profit by hiring a smaller number of workers. They are looking at lower wage rates, and what does that mean in regards to overall. So from a supplier standpoint, they're looking at who's available, who has that type of training. The three examples we can look at is nurses. There has been a nursing shortage, so the higher wage rate can be there if possible. That's been changing over the past couple of years. We know salaries for athletes are off the chain in regards to their contracts. Teachers, little question here. This is a little bit dated, I think, because in our current state, so many teachers have lost jobs. So now, if there's a single buyer, understood. Now we're going to introduce unions. What does unions do to our market models? Now, different types of unions depending upon what they are. So if we come in with a competitive wage rate here, there's three areas that unions look to achieve for workers: higher wage rates, a safer work environment, all right, and job security. So when unions come in, we see the union wage rate as being higher. But as a result of this, we see a change in regards to, more people want to work in regards to the labor unions altering the prices of the inputs. So, but we also see that there is also going to be, some changes in regards to wage rates, but also as it relates to price as well. So there's an increase in demand, obviously within the union model. Unions also look to restrict immigration, reduce child labor, have compulsory retirement, and a shorter work week. Again, another model, craft union. We do not want to discount the trades. They are skilled specifics in certain areas, and their wage rates under craft unit. All right, so they command a higher wage rate. There's not as many of those individuals in regards to the quantity of labor that is available because they are skilled. They are skilled. Industrial unions, you kind of look at the steel and the auto union, has gone through some major changes. So when we take a look at their competitive wage rate, and then we decide to put in a steel union or an auto union, obviously there's going to be an increase in their wage rates, a decrease in their quantity as well. Now, again, over the years, this has changed quite a bit because of changes in the overall economy. Are unions successful? Basically, for the most part, with wages, yes. The consequences of that is there's not as many people hired, and so therefore you're looking at having the wage rates, but not as many people adding to the productivity. Okay. Bilateral monopoly model, where we're looking at the buyer, but we're also looking at an inclusive union, single buyer and seller. All right. This can happen. What does this look like? All right. Again, so we're looking at a wage rate, and then we're putting in that single buyer, single seller, and what does that mean in regards to wage rates? Quite a bit of difference in regards to wage rates. that single buyer, single seller, obviously the quantity is extremely low, and the wage rate is extremely high, because on both sides of the market they can demand the highest amount of wage rates for that person who has a skill set. Minimum wage, there's an up and down, a pro and con as it relates to whether it should be increased. In my opinion, it's still kind of out there. When we take a look at, and this is just some wages of some individuals in regards to where they are in regards to wage rates overall. Wage differentials, and this slide will show quite a few in regards to what we're looking at, depending upon occupations. Also, as it relates to what we're looking at across occupations. There is a differential depending upon if it's competitive or not. The education and the training and the ability that it takes for you to achieve that particular position. We know that the higher your education attainment, for the most part, can correlate to a higher wage or annual earnings. And so therefore, that's why we sacrifice due the opportunity cost of time and money to attain the higher education, to attain more financial security. All right, now, doesn't mean it's all is perfect. We have a lot of regulations with unions, the lack of job information, geographic immobility, discrimination based on what I like to call someone's earth suit. They're discriminated upon, and therefore, these are imperfections with wage differentials. Paying for performance. Equal wages, still an issue, not settled. But we have, other different plans like incentive pay plans. If we do by piece rates, if we do by commissions or royalties, and efficiency wages, any other types of benefits that we can bestow as it relates to stock options and profit sharing, all in a package, a compensation package. Good or bad, in the McConnell, Bruin, Flynn book, they talk about the salaries of CEOs and are they outrageous? Even when the company does bad, do CEOs deserve to make all that kind of money that they are making? And this is where this slide comes in with the CEO being overpaid. During the recession of 2008, we had so many individuals that were given these golden parachutes that were literally paid for bad performance of the firm. They were asked to leave, but upon leaving, they were given quite a bit of an incentive package in regards to leaving. Is that, ridiculous as it relates to being paid for bad performance, is what we're looking at. All right. In chapter 15, number 2, I've actually copied this problem and just want to walk through it just as I did the last one, just to kind of give you some guidance before you go into Connect. We're looking at labor units. We're looking at a wage rate of $14, a total labor cost, which will be our labor times our wage, so putting that there, and then our delta, the marginal, the change, the delta in our labor costs. Okay, so this is number 2, the back of problem 15. So we want to show graphically what that looks like, and then we'll complete our chart, and then look at what are the equilibrium wage rate and level of employment. All right, so here's that same chart completed. We understand that our marginal resource labor cost has been consistent as we added on different labor units. Okay, so if we really track that, that means our wage rate, our marginal, everything is the same at $14 a unit. All right, so this is what we're looking at right here. Okay, our labor costs, and that equals our marginal resource costs. So our supply is constant, all right, in regards to our marginal as well. Now, what we're going to add to that is our MRP, all right, and we understand what our MRP is from our graph in regards to overall wage rates and our profitability, and what we're looking at. So we're using some other information in regards to Chapter 14. We're reviewing that labor demand. That's where we get this information in regards to our wage rate. Okay, so we're trying to see where the marginal resource cost equals the marginal resource product. So if you look back on Chapter 14, on the graph used in question review question 2, all right, which is what the one that I had in our previous um, um, lecture capture. This is the same problem I'm referring to. All right, so it's Chapter 14, Problem 2, and that's in the recorded lecture that I also have up for the demand of resources. That's where this information is plotted. So we're looking at that equilibrium, and the MRP is plotted halfway points on the horizon axle. So we see at 14 and just about uh, almost 5 employees. So our equilibrium wage rate is 14, and the level of employment would be 5 units of labor. So again, just trying to pull from Chapter 14 and Chapter 15 using the same um, problem, some of the information from Chapter 14 into Chapter 15 to walk us through what that looks like. And I hope this will be helpful as you review and then get ready to move forward in the class.